Hey guys, so I'm going to do a video on something that I was trying to build and it just didn't work out as planned, but I still built it. And that's one of these, a lithium ion phosphate battery. Um, the problem I had was uh, when you want to build these, you have to have a bunch of components, and I'll go over all that. One of the main one is the battery cells, and it has 4 cells in it. And as I tried to purchase them, and I was getting them through AliExpress from China, I was able to find them cheap, but they never arrived. I had to keep getting a refund from AliExpress because the shipper would never ship them. As I started to concentrate more on sellers that had good reputations and had good reviews, I started noticing the price climbing. And then when I eventually got to getting some cells, getting the BMS, which is the battery management system that you have to have in it, getting a box, getting everything I need to build one, it was either cheaper or around the same price to just buy one already built. This one here, which is, you can see it's pretty good size. This is a 200 amp hour, 12 volt lithium ion phosphate 4-cell battery, or what they have, LiFePo4. It's a good battery. I bought this straight off of AliExpress, already built. Inside this box is exactly what I'm going to show you how to build. You can find other videos of this on YouTube on how to build one. But what I found out was nobody's really telling you that you go out and buy all this stuff, and now the prices of the already built ones have come down to where it's the same price. You're basically wasting your time building one. I mean, if you want to build one because you want to learn how to build one, that's okay. That's cool. But I found out that just buying one outright pretty much comes to the same price. They are coming down in price. The cells have kind of creeped up while the already built ones are coming down. And that may be something that the manufacturers are doing to just so that they can sell their already pre-built batteries. Now you can find batteries, you'll see these batteries. Once you dig into this, you'll start getting a lot of ads for lithium ion phosphate batteries. And you'll notice some companies have like this 200 amp hour battery for like over $1,000, $800 to $1,000. I paid $400 shipped for this battery on AliExpress, and you can go research AliExpress and find anyone you want. There's a whole bunch of different manufacturers. You just need to make sure you concentrate on ones that have had a lot sold and have reviews of people who have received them. I don't know why, but there's a lot of ads on AliExpress of low cost. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. Low cost, and you never get them. And then you have to, it takes like a couple of months to get it from AliExpress. They don't ship these out individually. They usually ship them out on a pallet, destined for each individual for the US. It gets on a container ship, and it has to come over, and then you have to wait for, once it gets into the US, to get shipped to your house. So it takes a couple months. So, but I did get some cells, and I'm going to show you how I did this. So if you want to do it, you can follow these instructions. It's safe. You just got to make sure you follow all the safety precautions, which I'll go over some of them. Or you can just buy them outright on AliExpress. Everything that I'm going to show in this video is on AliExpress. I bought it all on AliExpress. Like I said, it takes a little time. Some of the stuff you can find on Amazon, like the BMS and the battery box and some cables and stuff like that. But it may cost a little more. That's up to you. So let me get back to it. All right. So the first thing you want are the cells. So these are 3.2 volt lithium ion phosphate cells, 100 amp hour each. Now, these, I don't know if you notice, they have just a little bit of swell to them. That's kind of normal for these batteries. As long as they don't swell too much, they normally swell a little bit when they're charged. I've already checked these and I got them fully charged. So the next thing you need, so you need 4 of these, so you can have a total of 12 volts. This is for building a 12 volt battery. If you want to build a 24 volt battery, you would need 8 of them. So the next thing is a BMS, which is a battery management system. This is by Radio B. I don't know if that's backwards. And they come with a Bluetooth module. I'll get this apart. Comes with a Bluetooth module because there is an app. Then it comes with this little wiring harness. Get this apart. Now when it comes, it doesn't have any of the lugs on them, but it comes with a little bag that has all the lugs. So there'll be five lugs for this harness. And then there'll be 6 larger lugs. And then this one, the Radio B, comes with 2 temperature probes, which is a good safety feature. Your batteries will come with nuts and lugs, or a bus bar. And then what I have is you also want to get a small nut and bolt. This is just a Phillips head bolt with a nut on it. That's so that you can put these 3 grounds together. I'll show you because you won't have enough room to get from the BMS to the box that you're going to put everything in. Then you also want to buy, dropped everything. You want to buy some battery lugs, battery box lugs. That's what these are. Positive and negative. I'll show you where those go. Some of it you're not going to keep because it won't fit through the box. It really depends on what kind of box you get. And then you have the box, which is this right here. It's just a battery box. You can go on Amazon or AliExpress and just search for battery box and you'll see a whole bunch of them come up. And then you need to make some 4-gauge battery wire. You want them about 12, maybe 14 inches long. This is for this application. You might have to rearrange the length depending on what kind of box you have and how you want to put it together. And the box, get a box that has a voltage gauge on it, capacity, so that you can kind of keep an eye on it by just looking at the top here. There's a little button here to turn it on and off. It just snaps right in. If your box didn't come with it, if it has the hole, you can go on Amazon and get the little battery voltage gauge. So here's the lugs I told you. Now they have a bunch of insulators and stuff that come with it. I had to take them off because this was pretty thick that this came through, and to get it connected, I had to take some of those insulators off, which is no big deal. Works fine. All right, so I also have some of this. This is just shrink wrap. Now, some people, you can get large shrink wrap on Amazon. This is, I think, about 12 inches. And then it comes in it's like 10 feet of it. This is perfect for these batteries. And I'll show you. You can get it larger if you go up to like 200 amp hour, which are much larger batteries than these. And then the last thing are, well, I've got this, and this is really up to you if you want to do it or not. This is the voltage meter, because my box didn't come with one, and on Amazon it came in a pack of 2. So I went ahead and got them and put it in there. This right here, I got this and I realized I didn't need it. What this is it's a balancer, but your BMS does that for you. If you're going to charge it without a BMS, which I don't recommend, you can use one of these to top balance these batteries. Now, a lot of people talk about how when you get them, you need to top balance the batteries when you first get them. Measure the voltage. If the voltages are all pretty close to the same, like 3.21, 3.23, 3.20, 3.21, blah, 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 really close, then your BMS will balance them for you. When you go to charge them, it will balance them. If it's low, you can use a power supply that does 3.2 volts or 3.5 volts. You got to see what its max voltage is for charging, which will be in the specs of the battery when you go to buy them. You'll see all the specs on charging voltage and capacity and amps, and you charge each one of them up to its max voltage and what they call top balance. The other thing is to bottom balance them, which is to discharge them each one all the way to 0. These all showed up all pretty much the same and almost fully charged. Once I get all this together, I'm going to hook them all up and hook the BMS up and go ahead and top them off and charge them all the way. The BMS will take care of that for me. So the first thing I need to do is put all this stuff away. The first thing we need to do is we need to make sure these are configured right. We're going to be connected these in series so that we're going to add the voltage, not the capacity. So if you do them in parallel, then that will increase capacity but keep the voltage. So if I did all these in parallel, they'd be 3.2 volts, 400 amp hour. But I'm going to do these in series so that it's 4 times each one, adding all the voltage of all the cells, but keeping the capacity of 100 amp hours. So to do them in series, you want to alternate the batteries so that it's positive, negative, positive, negative. Or actually, since I'm just looking left to right, I'm gonna switch these around. So it's positive, negative, positive, negative. And then what you want to do is you want to connect the positive to the negative, then the positive to the negative, and the positive to the negative. Kind of like, open this up. We have a bus bar in this bag, and you should have 3 bus bars. But actually, before I connect all these, I'm going to put them in their shrink wrap. I'm going to wrap it into a brick. And to do that, we want to separate these a little bit. And we have these. These are like insulators, but I had to trim them down to fit these batteries. They don't need to fit exactly, but they need to be inside so that we keep them separated. And it's just something I'm doing. Some people put cardboard. You can buy these separators on AliExpress. You can buy them on Amazon, or you can just use like those vinyl folders for school. You know, little project folders. As long as you have something to keep them separated, then we're going to measure some shrink wrap. scissors. All right, so what you want to do is you want to measure this like this. You don't want to measure it like that. You don't want to measure it to the side because the opening is on the end here, which is going to slide around it. And you want it to go about maybe an inch above the battery. Doesn't need to be perfect. Slide that over there. Now that I have all my stuff in place, we're going to slide this over. And you want to make sure that your sleeves are all in place. It's kind of tricky to do. I was going to lose it. There we go. Ah. The only thing you gotta watch out for is the corners so that they don't cut. There we go. Now, you want to make sure that your batteries are all nice and in place before you start shrink wrapping. So we're going to slide this up, and we want this right in the middle. We want to make sure that the batteries are all in place. And you have to watch out for the corners of that separator, because when you go to shrink wrap it, it will tear. All right, that looks good. Actually, I want to move it up a little more because you don't want the shrink wrap to cover up any of the terminals, obviously. There we go. Now we take our heat gun. All right. You can kind of shape them a little bit if they're a little off. This melted a little bit. I really didn't have it that close, but, and then you can see if you don't have the separators or these things, If you have them a little bit too close to the edge, they'll tear. But I think we're good. It's nice and tight. So now we have to build our battery. So we have our bus bars. We put these bus bars on. The bus bars go positive to negative. And then, see if we can do this. Get this up here a little bit. So here we have positive to negative up here. Positive to negative down here. So that's what puts it in series. Both, this goes to, the blue go to the negative of the main negative of the battery. So flip this around. You have the bus bars here, here, and here. That's the main negative, and this is the main positive. So we're going to connect a nut, and we need to align this now so that we got everything away. So we're going to put all of these here. And I'm just going to hold it temporary because you have this cable for the BMS. And as you can see, you have red and a whole bunch of whites and a black. Where's that power bounce? So our black wire, our first black, is going to go on the same connection as the BMS. If you're not sure, let me get this on first. The BMS, okay, come on now. All right, you're being a pain, come on. There it goes. Get a little. Always be careful not to short anything out. Just turn this so I can at least get it in place. There we go. So that's the first one. Now we have the first white wire will go on the negative of the second battery. So you can put a bolt down on the first positive. You want to go ahead and put this down on the first negative. If you're not sure of any of this, you have a little drawing here that comes with it. And as you can see, here's the BMS. The blue wires go to the first negative. The first black wire goes to the first negative, and then each next white go to each battery all the way to the end, and then the red goes on the positive. So all the positives, but the one on the end, you want to put a nut on so you don't want to accidentally put a BMS wire on, except for one on the end. So the next wire you want to put on the next negative. And then you want to put on the next white. On the end. And then at the very end, you have a red, which goes on the positive at the very end. Now you want to go ahead and tighten them up. Like I said, be careful. Do not want to short anything. It'd be nicer if I had a wrench, which I don't happen to have one with me, which maybe a little crescent wrench or something would have been better off. Make sure everything is, take some zip ties and clean everything up after you're done. I'm going to attach the BMS to the side of the battery with some 3M tape, which should get it around here. There we go. I thought about, yeah, I think I can do this. I want to try to put it over here on the side. Yeah, that'll be perfect. I just need to tighten this up. Got to be careful not to tighten these too much because they can strip these posts. All right. So to get this out of the way, I have me some 3M tape. I'll show you what this all looks like when I'm done with it. This is just some 3M two-sided tape. It's pretty strong tape. We want a piece of tape that's long enough. There we go. Now, some people say don't put the BMS on the battery. If you're building a pretty large battery, and you're going to expect a lot of heavy use, where you expect the battery to heat up pretty good, which I don't expect this from this one. You know, you could put like one of these between it, or you could use a longer cable and put the BMS separated from the battery. So now that's what I got. There's the BMS squeezed up onto the on here. I have the Bluetooth module. I'm going to go ahead and plug that in. I think that goes right here. the BMS itself will go right up on the end here, and you'll see it'll power up. Now that it's all connected, you should see a blue light start blinking on the BMS itself. You don't want to mess with these cables, as in you don't want to trim them. They're pretty specific for the readings that the BMS does off of the battery. Changing the cable length may change attenuation or anything like that. So I wouldn't mess with it. I'm going to take the Bluetooth module. I'm going to cut a small piece of tape. Put it on the back of the Bluetooth module. It has a little plastic coating around it, like a little heat shrink. I'm going to take this off. And then I'm going to put it yeah, we'll just set it right on top of the BMS, just right here. Now, this cable is what's going to go to the negative on the box. So that's why I have this little nut. So for right now, I'm going to put these all together. Kind of made this nut myself because I had one, but it was too long. There, I'm just going to hold that together. Now I'm going to get some zip ties. Actually, before we zip tie, this BMS comes with two temperature sensors, and it's these two connectors at the bottom. These two down here. So we put one here, and we're going to attach with a small piece of tape. I'm actually going to use some packing tape, which would be better. I don't want to put something that's going to make it too difficult to get off if I need to move it, but all I'm doing, small piece of tape, and I'm going to attach one down at the bottom of the battery pack, all the way on this side. Then I'm going to take the second one, attach that one, and we're going to put that one, if it'll make it all the way around, let's see. Yeah, we're going to attach this one to the top of this side of the battery pack. This way we're measuring temperature across both sides, all sides of the battery. The BMS itself has a third sensor inside it. So there we go. Now we need to tie all this stuff together. So we'll put a little zip tie right here. And then I'm gonna tie a couple right in here so that the wires stay out of the way of the terminals. And then kind of tighten them up. And then put one more up here. All right, then let's see if we can wind this up a little. Just to clean this up. And then we have, put one here. And then one last one right here. And let's get it off of there. There we go. Now this is good for an RV, whatever you need a 12-volt battery for. I don't think it'd be good for a car. I don't think it has the cranking amps to start a vehicle, but all right, let's move this stuff out the way. All right, so here is our battery. Nice and clean on the top. Everything connected except for our box. We don't have our box connected yet. So our box negative will go here and positive will go to this terminal here. So we can, however, bring up the app and see if our battery is showing up in the app. Let's do that. All right, so this is the app. It's called, let me see if I can, it's called that XIAOXIANG Electric. So when you get into it, everything's blank. So you need to, usually when you first start it, so if I close it completely and then open it, it will go out and look for batteries. As you can see, I've got some batteries. And let's, let me show you what it looks like. Let's unlink it. So it'll show up like that. What you need to do is find your battery, which I know that's mine, the bottom one, which is the BMS. The other two are the 280 amp or the 200 amp hour batteries that are already built. So what you do is you select your battery and click connect. It'll go ahead and connect and it'll go into the battery. So now you can see I'm at 90 amp hours. So this battery is 90% charged. I can look down at the bottom and I can see the voltage of all four of the cells. And they're pretty much pretty even. 3.334, 34, 33, 35. They're pretty much even. If they were way off, then you can set this to balance. This battery, if you go into control, there would normally be, like, let me show you if I show you another battery. If I connect one of these other ones. This BMS automatically balances. This BMS, if I go into control, there's an auto balance you have to turn on. If not, it will just charge all 4 cells evenly, even if they're off. Like this battery here, it's at 99%, and all those batteries are pretty close. Not as close as this new one. But if I go back to this one, they're pretty close. I'm at 91%, and there is no feature to auto balance. But if I go into parameter and I go into balance settings, it's set to automatically balance. It's already set to balance. So there's no, I can't turn it off. It's automatically, it already balances, or I can come in here and change how I want the balance to be. Charge balance is what you want it to be. So this is the app. This is what you're looking at when you're working with the battery. How much current it's drawing, or if it's taking in. If it's drawing, you'll see a negative. If it's charging, it'll be a positive. So one thing about this app that you need to know about is under parameters, origin settings, this is where you would set the capacity. By default, it sets at 4 cells, 100 amp hours or 100,000 milliamp hours. If you have a battery that's a larger capacity, like a 200 amp hour, you have to come in and change that to 200. That's like I had to do if I go into one of these other batteries that I have. This is one of the 200 amp hour. I had to go in and set that to 200 amp hours. Full charge capacity, 200 amp hours. Cycle capacity is 160 amp hour. So you need to make sure that you ensure that this is set up correctly for your battery. If you get a 100 amp hour battery, then everything's the same. Everything's fine. You have all these protection parameters. Everything, if you're using these 3.2 volt LiFePo 100 amp hour batteries, leave everything at default. I wouldn't mess with any of these settings unless you have a good idea of what you're doing. Everything is configured for the 3.2 volt batteries. If you need to change things, then you can. You can come in here and change balance settings and your capacity. But I would leave them alone unless you have a good idea of what you're doing. So it's imperative that you don't mess with any of that if you don't know what you're doing. You could put the battery into an overcharge or over voltage or over amps, and you could end up with a fire. It can be dangerous. So let's go ahead and switch back to the other camera and start putting this into a box. All right, so I think we've got everything we need. I'm going to put some of this stuff. The BMS comes with some posts if you want to mount it to something. So you have that option. It comes with posts, with a hex post, kind of like they use for like hard drives and stuff. Or not hard drive, like motherboards on a computer. And you can use those to mount it to something. So this is the lid. And I went ahead and put the terminal posts, those posts that I showed you earlier, put it on there, connected the voltage meter that comes on, that I put in this box. Some of them already come with it, some of them don't. I just wired them straight to the terminals, since those are going to go straight to the battery. And I did these about 14 inches long. They are 4 amp or 4 gauge wire. So we have the box. Regular box. What I want to do is I want to put this in the center. Got the wires here. Got to be careful of the wiring. Just like that. Show you this. You see that okay? Now, I have some of these extra. You can use cardboard. I'm just going to use these because I'll be honest with you, I don't plan on building another one of these. I'm just going to put some of these on the side to protect the wiring. And then I'm going to put the rest on the back side, like that. Now, I'm going to keep one of these is going to go on top. It's going to protect the connections. You put it like this or like this. I'm just going to put it like that. And I'm just using some foam on the sides. You just need to make sure that you have enough to protect. You have to make sure you keep this away from the positive. So let's see. And I'm going to put some foam down the side here. Some down the side here. Where's my scissors? Whole purpose is just to protect it. I don't think this is going to go flying around anywhere. I'm going to be keeping it inside. Whatever I use it for, trailer or whatever. But all you want to do is make sure you keep it secure. Because we're going to secure the top to keep it from coming up. So the next part is so we have our positive. Come on, there it goes. Again, be very careful not to short anything. actually going to run this over like this. Okay, then our negative is going to go on this connector here. Being careful not to drop anything. Kind of want to make it straight. Then I'm going to take some, I'm going to do some tape. I'm going to take some electrical tape and I'm going to just tape up this terminal. I just don't want it floating around. Just me, but that's up to you. So to give you a view from the top, you want to be able to have your positive going away and your negative. Then you can put this piece of foam on top. This will cover all the terminals. Then when you fold your, it's kind of hard to do this with one hand. When you fold your cables over, they will lay on top of the foam. And then you'll have them fold over like that. Then you'll be able to push your cover down and then we'll put the strap on. This way it's not pressing too much, but you don't have to worry about the battery cables scratching against any of the terminals. That's what the foam is for. You can tape it down if you want. But once you get it pressed down, it should be fine. And believe it or not, these are such a pain, but I'm going to show you how it's done. So these battery straps, you know, if they don't have the two parts, they are just a pain to get strapped down. So you want to make sure that it comes up to the top. Put it through the area where the teeth are. Make sure that the flat side is down. Come back from the back side, put it through the area where the teeth are. Make sure everything's lined up. Pull it tight. And then hold it. And then you have to lift up the back and slide this in if you can. It is such a pain to get that in there. See if I can loosen it up a little bit just to get that in. Now you should be able to pull it. There we go. Yeah, well, it's not tight all the way. There we go. All right, so that's our battery. All built.
got handles. So now we need to go ahead and charge it. Okay. So I've got multiple batteries, or multiple chargers. I have this one. This does different batteries, AGM, lead acid, you name it, but it also does LiFePo4. I have one of these that do multiple batteries, but this is pretty much the best for not really high amps, but good amps to charge a battery. So I'm going to go ahead, plug this in. Comes on. I don't have it hooked up yet. Take off my terminals. Put my negative on. Put my positive on. And I should see it's charging at 3/8 or 3.8 amps. Gives me the temperature. Now it's at 4.4 amps, 13.4 volts. It will start to level off on what it's supposed to do for charging. So let me pull this off of here. So you can see that it's charging now. I can hit my 13.3 volts. Then I can go ahead and bring up my app and see what it's doing. Okay. So I've got multiple batteries, or multiple chargers. I have this one. This does different batteries, AGM, lead acid, you name it, but it also does LiFePo4. I have one of these that do multiple batteries, but this is pretty much the best for not really high amps, but good amps to charge a battery. So I'm going to go ahead, plug this in. Comes on. I don't have it hooked up yet. Take off my terminals. Put my negative on. Put my positive on. And I should see it's charging at 3/8 or 3.8 amps. Gives me the temperature. Now it's at 4.4 amps, 13.4 volts. It will start to level off on what it's supposed to do for charging. So let me pull this off of here. So you can see that it's charging now. I can hit my 13.3 volts. Then I can go ahead and bring up my app and see what it's doing. Okay, so you can see now I've got a charging current of 3.96 amps. And if you watch the amp hours, you'll start to see that start to climb. It says here it's going to take a couple hours. See, now it's 91.09. You can see all of my voltages are pretty much the same. It's going to start coming up they'll start leveling off and doing their balance thing. But you can see my amp hours are starting to climb. And so far, everything looks good. So a couple of things, you just got to be careful with these things. I'm not a battery expert. I've kind of done a lot of research on how this is done. This is probably the easiest way to do it. I've seen people doing them with those individual balancer capacitors, and I didn't want to mess with all that. There's some people have built their own boxes with wooden frames around them and then bolted them together to squeeze them to keep them from swelling too much. I find that shrink wrap works pretty good. Doesn't need to be, you need to give the batteries a little bit of flex because they're going to swell a little bit when they charge, and then they'll shrink a little bit when they discharge. That's kind of normal. Too much swelling is maybe a problem. That probably an indication that the battery is degrading. So you also want to keep, for these batteries, you also want to keep track of the temperature. You don't want to store these out in really hot or really cold environments. You want to store them indoors. That way they'll keep their longevity. So, like I said, I'm not an expert, but I wanted to build one myself. I wanted to see how it was done. And to be honest with you, it's about either the same price or cheaper just to buy one already built. But if you want to experience that process, that's what it is. So if you have any questions, hit me up. I'll take critiques too. And let me know what you think and subscribe. I'll talk to you all later.